Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome. I am here with a VR to my friend Tegan over at Cosmic Creepers Tube and her tag Oracles with Attitude. If you haven't already seen her video, which I'm sure you have if you're here, I will link in the description box below where you can see that, and I'll mention as well that she has made a playlist of all of the VRs. So if you want to see a lot of oracles with attitude, you can watch the entire playlist. I knew the second that I saw this video that I was going to make a VR because I have quite a lot of decks that I would say would fall into this category. My initial plan was to choose 5 since that's how many that Tegan chose, and then, make sure that I chose 5 that hadn't already been shown. And the tag has quite taken off, and a lot of folks have shared a lot of decks at this point. So I'm like, I better get on this. So I actually have 6 to show you because I feel that sums up my attitudes towards the rules. I don't think 5 was a rule, but if it was, fuck that rule. Okay, Oracles with Attitude. The first one I'm going to show is a deck called the Dark Moon Damsel Oracle. This used to be on print on demand quite a number of years ago. I'm not sure about the print status of this at this point, but it is a really cool deck with a really nice color palette, I think. And the reason that I find this to be a deck with attitude is that this deck, in my experience working with it, and I've had it for quite a number of years now, has a propensity to give me some variation of a message of like, it's not them, it's actually you. This one is a deck that has an attitude of not letting me, not acknowledge when I am the problem. So, it's not that the keywords are like particularly blunt or harsh or anything like that. Just the way that this turns up in readings for me, it tends to have some variation of a message of that. And it tends to be quite to the point when I use it. I find this Oracles with Attitude tag interesting because it's definitely a tag I think that leans more into the kind of personification of the decks than I tend to do. Floating Island, how cool is that? But I definitely, can think of some of my decks as having attitude, and this is definitely one. I went pretty broad in terms of what I interpreted having an attitude to mean for the purpose of this tag. So these choices are going to be all over the place, just so we know. The next one that I thought of is this deck called Sacred Incantations, Rituals of Trans Wisdom for Every Season. The last I checked, the creators of this, it's a collaborative deck put out by a group called Infleshed. I believe they are now taking orders for a second printing. But this is a collaborative deck of many artists across many continents and cultural contexts that is a trans-created deck. And I feel like this one definitely has a particular kind of attitude, and it's an attitude that I feel like sometimes I need. This is a deck that is one that is very special to me. And in some ways, it is something like an affirmation deck. Certainly not consistently through all of the cards, but there are some affirmative aspects to this, but even in its process of being affirming, there is within that a kind of, we're here, we're queer, we're not going away kind of attitude, if that makes sense. And so, very different kind of oracle with attitude than the first one I showed in terms of how I experience it. But this one is a kind of support attitude. And an attitude of refusal to internalize bullshit, refusal to, not appear in the world, refusal to hide. And in that, this deck is very, very special. And one of my absolute favorites, Sacred Incantations. The next deck that I chose is the Nature Magic Oracle. And this deck is by Kristen of Over the Moon Academy, a wonderful, prolific deck creator. I have several of her decks. And it is these close-up images of mostly plants with a single keyword. It's a really nice deck to pair with tarot, and it's a deck that I really like using. Now, the reason that I would say that this is an oracle with attitude is that it has a way of being included in a reading and just throwing things in a different direction than you expected and perhaps than what you wanted, right? I will work with this in terms of, for each spread position, maybe I'll draw a tarot and one of these cards. And so you do sometimes get these experiences where like a card like Parasitic will show up as a kind of modifier to a tarot card in response to a question that really turns the tone of a reading, decaying, right? The Ten of Cups decaying. It definitely gives something unique to the tone of a reading. And I would say that in terms of the keywords in this deck, it's pretty balanced. Like there are some that are perhaps more straightforwardly positive, some that feel more straightforwardly negative, and some that feel neutral or kind of very context dependent. But so often this one will come in and, modify things in a way that I am, I look at it and I'm like, oh, well, thanks a lot, you know? Turn over that nice tarot card and then this comes up beside it and it's like, nope, sorry. So this definitely has an attitude to me and is a great deck. I think this is on Printer Studio. The fourth one that I thought of, or rather the fourth one in the pile that I have to show you, is one that I standing in front of my oracle shelf deciding what to show, and this wasn't necessarily a thing that I was thinking would be a deck with attitude, but I think it fits. And this is The Oracle of Place by Kelly Fitzgerald. And it's a really beautiful deck. I set aside, it does have some kind of, I think of these as like expansion packs. It has a set of animal cards and it has a set of plant cards as well. And I keep those ones separate. You don't have to, obviously. You can do whatever you want. The Oracle of Place has attitude to me in that this feels like the attitude of a like elderly auntie, or grandma who is going to, tell you the truth. And it's a fantastic deck to work with. I do find it to be a supportive deck to work with, but it's not one that gives an easy time either. So yeah, this is my honest, tell it like it is grandma deck. Actually, there's two of those in this. There's two of those in this VR. There's another one coming up in a minute. Okay, so the fifth one that I chose as an Oracle with Attitude is the Spirit Doodle cards by Elrond Mills of Space Between the Notes. I don't know if this is still available right now. I hope that it is because it's great. And this one is made up of doodles. And it's a really good one. And the guidebook is really good. There's something about the artwork that feels like a deck with attitude to me in the best possible way. And it also has messages in it like this, you know, like, stop interfering. Very to the point. There's a card in here that just says no on it. And, you know, sometimes you get something fairly affirmative, like embrace abundance. And then other times, like, no, like, change what you're doing. This is one of those decks that, as an oracle for me, I can use on its own, which I really like. And I like that it's so small, like physically small, and it pairs well with lots of decks as well. Definitely, there's definitely some attitude in this one though, like change speed, which for me usually means go faster. Because that's what I don't tend to do naturally. Yeah. Find your intention. This. Put boundaries and be still. Like, put boundaries, do it, you know? Has that kind of... Oh, some of the cards are upside down. No. There's a no card. No. Definitely, I would say a deck with attitude. I really like this deck so much. And the guidebook for this is really, really good. He does a bunch of correspondences for these in the guidebook, like songs and, you know, musical keys and all different kinds of things. It's like, it's really, really fantastic. The last deck in my collection that I have chosen to share as a deck with attitude is another, you know, aunties and grandmas with attitude deck that I adore. And this is L'Oracle des Vieilles Dames by Athénaeus Vandrevel. And this is the Oracle of Old Ladies. And I just think these old ladies are fantastic. And I feel like there's so much kind of audacious joy in this deck. That is a particular kind of attitude. It feels like really fabulous to me. This is like very unapologetic, badass older ladies, and I love it. So definitely this one is an oracle deck with attitude. La super heroine. Perfect. So L'Oracle des Vieilles, the Oracle of Old Ladies by Athénaïs Fontenelle. That's my last one. Those are my oracle decks with attitude.